Hey everyone, welcome back to the Engineered Angler. I'm Franco. I'm a professional engineer and lure designer and an avid fisherman. And if you were around for last week's video, you will have seen me make this crawling topwater lure. But first, I showed you what my prototype looked like and how it acted in the water. And then I explained to you what the design of the wing had to be to really get that really killer action. I showed you how to shape it out of plastic, out of metal, and then finally out of a spoon. But because really a light aluminum is really the preferred material. It's tougher, it holds its shape better, and I can create a more durable hinge with it. So that's what we're doing this week. We're gonna make metal wings for the crawler lure. So the reason I didn't start off making those wings with metal is because I really didn't have a good source for a thin enough aluminum that I could shape it easily, but not so thin that it would like flex too easily and get out of shape. So I had to kind of get creative trying to find where I could find this thin aluminum. So I went to my local home improvement store. So I went back to the rain gutter area and found these brackets, and I bought a couple of them. And they're just basically brackets that hold the downspout against your wall of your house. And this stuff is really light. It's thin. It's about 3/4 of a millimeter, which is like a 32nd of an inch. And the other handy thing, it already has some 45-degree bends in it that'll work perfectly for this fabrication of these little wings. All right, so if you hear a little noise in the background, it's pouring rain. Today is the 4th of July. Of course, it's gonna rain. So here in North Florida, we're all kind of waiting to see what the tropical storm does, Elsa. Got to keep an eye on it to make sure it doesn't turn into a hurricane and then come barreling into us. This was the general shape of the little wing. And I told you about how you really needed most of the wingtip bending in downward and then this deeper lobe scooping water. And that's what's going to give you your ability to grab water, have the lure dip, and then the tip will push water and have the lure come back out and allow the other wing to go in. On the last one, I actually glued on my hinge arrangement, but with this one, I'm going to have a couple of holes, and I'll use that to put in some wire eyes that will go through the holes and then directly into the body of the lure. Let's assume that this orange line is the body. And then to be able to control the angle of how far it'll swing out, we're gonna put a tab of aluminum right there, and I'll be able to bend it at a 90, and that'll give me the opportunity to sort of tweak it and either get the wings closer together or wider apart. So I've already drawn and cut out a little template out of some very thin plastic, and I'm going to use this as my master template to make stick-on templates out of painter's tape using wax paper as a backing so I can pull it off there when I've got it cut out. And if you haven't seen last week's video, you should probably go ahead and watch it. You'll get a lot more out of this video if you've watched the other one first. And I'll go ahead and put a little link above right now. There's my little template, there's the tab, and I'm just gonna cut it out. And since there's two sides to this tape, when I cut this out, I'll actually get two templates, mirror images of each other. All right, that's a good start. Now, if you look closely at the little plastic template, you can see there's a little bit of a crease line, and I wanna transfer that crease line onto the template so I know exactly where to put it on the bend of this aluminum. All right, so that should be about right. I'll just have to replicate it on the other side. Should be about right. All right, now I just need to peel it off the wax paper. And then it's a matter of sticking it on So that line that I drew there across it is aligned with the bend in the aluminum. And then I'll stick another one going that way on this bend. I kind of flubbed drawing this line, but I know which one is the correct one. All right, there you go. Should be mirror images. Now it's a matter of getting it cut out. Man, it's coming down and there's lots of lightning, so I won't be surprised if this place goes black. Power usually goes out in a storm like this. All right, I'm just gonna use these utility shears and start cutting these guys out. I'm just gonna get the shape kind of close, and then I'll do the rest with the power sander and maybe a file. Let me go out to the power sander and get this thing shaped in. All right, this one's looking pretty good. I'm gonna work on the other one and then we'll get back to it. So I'm refining the shape a little bit with the Dremel tool, but it occurred to me that I had quite a few questions about troubleshooting these kind of crawler lures and sort of adjusting them after you've made them. There are usually two typical problems. One is the lure just wants to propeller around in the water, and the other one is where the lure is just sort of shoving as it's going along and maybe hopping a little bit but not really oscillating. The first one happens when you set your wings sort of one facing forward and the other one facing back, and when you have them offset like that opposite each other, it just creates a propeller and the lure is going to act like a propeller in the water. The other issue of it pushing is typically that you have too much of the downward surface near the tips in the water, and you can either bend back a little bit on the top or trim it in a little bit. That usually solves the problem. All right, let me finish these up and then we'll drill the little 2 hinge holes in it. So now I need to drill 2 little holes next to that tab to act as my locations for the little hinge wires. And I need them as close to that edge as I can possibly place it without worrying that the drill will get too close to the edge and weaken that edge. And I'm using this 1mm drill bit. All right, that's some delicate work. I just got to do the other one now. So now that we've got these shaped and I got those 2 little holes drilled for the hinges, now we need to do the little hinge wires. And those should be shaped like that. Basically a very small eye at the very top and then the legs sort of expanding out. And I want that so that it has a little bit of friction when it goes into the little hole that I drill in the side of the lure. And I won't be twisting these things because I need to be able to slide it on to the hinge side of that wing. So let's go ahead and make these things and then I'll show you the lure I'm going to use to put these wings on. So the wire I'm using is just stainless steel leader wire. It's a 108-pound test. It's 0.022 inch diameter. I need it to be thin enough to get into a small hole and small enough so it doesn't create a big gap between the wing and the body. So what I'm going to use is these really small little conical pliers, and I'm going to grab the wire at the very tip, the smallest diameter on this thing, and just wrap it around the tip and wrap that other leg around as well, trying to keep the diameter of this little loop as small as possible. And I do that by making sure that I wrap it around really tightly around that tip. Now I can bring it around and put a little bit of a back bend on it, and I'll come around this side and do the same thing. This way I have a really tiny little loop, and then the tag ends sort of splayed out a little bit, and I've already made the other one, so we should be able to start the process of assembling. Okay, so since we're reusing a lure, this lure already has the little holes that I drilled for the original hinges. Now they're not going to line up, so I'm just going to use the 2 top ones, and let me show you how I align the hinges for the wing to sit just right. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use those top holes because those pretty much align side to side and they're about the same elevation, so I should be able to use them without any problem. And what I'll do is I'll take this piece of wire and run it through the hole and then put it in to the hole in the lure. And what you want to do now is to align that brake line pretty much with the tie-on eye. And then I'll use another piece of wire and stick it in the drilled hole in the wing and mark my spot on the lure to drill. And there's my spot right there. You can see the old hole I've already filled in with some UV resin. So let's go ahead and drill these other holes. This is a good time to sort of sight down the wing and make sure I haven't deformed it or misshapen it during the cutting process. And now I need to bend the tab. Flat-jawed pair of pliers would do the trick. And I want to align this jaw with the holes so they're pretty much parallel to each other. And then I just bend backwards. And that'll give me a nice tab to do a little bit of adjustment later. Now I'm just going to slide these guys right in here and give it a little tug so it pops through. And there's the other one. We're about ready to assemble. So with these little wings assembled, there's nothing much more to do but insert them into the body and get them glued in. And all I'm going to do is just jam them in there and take a tiny droplet of super glue, allow it to sort of chase the wire down into the hole, and then I'll spritz it with some accelerator. That'll go into the hole and it should harden up and anchor it in really well. All right, that should do it. I'm gonna have to adjust the tab a little bit because it's going a little too far back. So I'm simply gonna take a little bit of glue and use this thin wire as my applicator and let the wire carry it down into the hole, and I'll do that a couple of times. And the wire just wicks it down into the hole. Then I just mist it with a little bit of accelerator. Wipe that all off. And then repeat the process for the bottom one. All right, that should do the trick. All right, and now it's just a matter of repeating the whole process with the other wing. All right, so I've got this thing completely assembled. The wings are right about equal, and as far as how far they go back, I went ahead and tweaked those little tabs so they would fall back just the right amount. You can see that the little break point points right at the tie-on eye. So let me put some hooks on it, and I guess I'll have to just brave this rain. It's not lightning and thundering anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and go down to the dock, put a little bit of rain gear on, and let's see what it looks like just playing with it at the dock. All right, we got a little bit of a break in the rain. It's still drizzling, but let's give it a shot. So, pretty happy with that. I think I can tweak it and get a little more action out of it, but it's about to rain again, so I'm gonna get better footage, some nice sunny HD shots. Hopefully I'll get a chance to do that, and if I do, I'll put that footage right here at the end. So thank you everyone for watching. Thanks to everyone who's been commenting, and if you like this kind of stuff, give me a thumbs up. It really does help. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. It's free.